The characters you're seeing on screen right now spell out the Japanese word karoshi. Although these characters might look unassuming to a non-Japanese speaker, they carry a massive weight. They represent an issue that has been plaguing Japan for many decades. Karoshi, when translated from Japanese, means overwork death. Or in other words, working yourself so hard that you eventually die. And that's kind of a hard thing to fathom, isn't it? Working so hard until you eventually can't anymore and your body just shuts down. I've had some pretty brutal work schedules in the past, but nothing compared to that. And truly, the most horrifying thing about this is that, as hard as it is to fathom, it's happening literally every single day to a lot of people. One of the most notable and relevant examples to this channel being anime and manga creators. At this point, it's no secret that creating anime is, well, kind of a nightmare. We talked about this in our video on Studio Mappa, link should be popping up if you'd like to watch it, but Japanese animators are kind of treated like trash in a lot of cases. And although Mappa is probably the most popular example right now, this isn't an issue that is exclusive to them. In fact, employee overwork is actually very common in the anime industry. Anime is an incredibly popular form of media, and so much of it is getting pumped out now that, of course, studios see it as an opportunity for expansion and monetary gain. However, this comes with the caveat that a lot of studios will take way more work than they can realistically put out. And so to make up for this, it is basically expected for their animators to work constant overtime. And what makes this even worse is that many of these animators are not even making a livable wage. High-level positions like key animators can make a pretty decent living off of their work. However, a lot of the smaller positions like the in-betweeners don't even make enough money to pay rent. Often they have to live with their parents or save up large amounts of money to get by, which is absurd, especially considering the brutal schedule that many of these animators have to work with. Anime production is very time sensitive. It's easy to just think of an anime as a single entity, a show that you will watch, enjoy, and eventually just kind of move on from. But it is anything but that. There is an astronomical amount of elements that all need to line up for the sake of business. Marketing materials, advertisements, merchandise, work schedules, and about a billion other things. Anime aren't given a ton of wiggle room. They typically need to come out at a certain time because the company making them needs them to come out at that time. One of the best examples being anime based on manga. I know that manga is incredibly popular now, but it's no exaggeration to say that often anime helps different manga series reach new heights of exposure and success. Yeah, series like Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, and My Hero Academia were all pretty well liked before they had anime, but you can't ignore the fact that anime adaptations for these shows have been a massive contributor to the series' monetary success. And so manga publishers need anime adaptations to come out in a relatively quick time frame so they can capitalize on the exposure that the anime gives them. Though speaking of manga, whew, man. I have read a lot of things about the manga industry, and while I think that wanting to be a manga author is an incredible goal and one of the greatest examples of boundless creativity and hard work, I also have to ask myself, why would anyone want to torture themselves like this? This is Eiichiro Oda. Now, I don't think I need to tell you who he is, right? After all, he created One Piece, probably the most popular manga of all time. And I mean, One Piece is long. As of this video, the manga is over 1,100 chapters long and has been collected into 109 volumes. That's pretty crazy, especially considering that for the most part, it's one guy's vision. So how is Oda able to do it? How is he able to make such a gigantic, ambitious story that has impacted the world in such an unprecedented way? Well, easy. During his typical work week, Oda only sleeps 3 hours a day. I work towards my deadline, so I'm just as busy as when I was younger, and I've managed to pull it off each time with 3 hours of sleep. And if I do sleep more hours, I'll have to take those hours away from something else I have to do. I don't like that. So my hours haven't changed. If I decide that I'm going to sleep for 4 hours, it makes me dread that I'll have to sleep an extra hour. But after turning in the manuscript, I give myself 1 day to get plenty of sleep. I used to catch up on sleep like this since I was younger, so that's where I adjust everything and leave everything else a mess. When I read this, I was baffled. The fact that Oda has to dedicate an entire day to getting caught up on sleep is one thing, but only sleeping 3 hours during the time in which he's actually making the manga is just sheer insanity. If he's been doing this consistently for over 25 years, then quite frankly, I don't know how this man is even still alive. A gargantuan feat when you take into account all of the health issues Oda has accumulated through the years. He suffers from not only sleep deprivation, but gout and moderate diabetes as well, probably from lack of eating and sitting at his desk for days on end. He basically lives at work away from his family, and because of this, he's only able to see them once a week when they're able to visit him. So I can imagine he's probably very lonely as well, which can also greatly affect your health. In fact, according to the World Health Organization, the mortality effects of prolonged loneliness can be the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And the worst part of all of this is that this is just normal for a lot of manga authors. To name just a few examples, Yoshihiro Togashi, the famed author of critically acclaimed series like Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter, suffers from horrible back pain, to the point that he can't really even sit down at a desk without being in pain. And that's on top of stress-related mental health issues that he's developed from being in the industry for so long. This has gotten so bad in the past that it basically led to him ending Yu Yu Hakusho early. Then you have Tite Kubo, the author of Bleach, who suffers from a partially torn shoulder tendon in his left arm, most likely caused from working non-stop. He's gone on record saying that this injury has impacted his ability to draw greatly and is probably a contributing factor that led to him wanting to end Bleach when he did. Then of course there's Kentaro Miura, the creator of Berserk, who tragically passed away in 2021 at just 51 years old. He's made several statements throughout the years detailing his declining health, stating that he would collapse from sheer exhaustion, was quickly watching his average sleep schedule diminish, and was beginning to lament the fact that he was lonely and didn't have much in his life. My 30s are almost over. My life is a mess with nothing but manga, but I can't take it back now, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to stay indoors again this year. This issue has even been affecting relatively newer manga authors like Gege Akutami, the creator of Jujutsu Kaisen. His health problems aren't as well known as the others, but he consistently has to take breaks because of them, which is just common at this point across the industry. This is obviously a widespread problem, not only for manga and anime creators, but all of Japan. This mindset dating back all the way to the end of World War II, when the nation had to work hard to basically rebuild itself. This is what led to Japan's economic miracle and the nation's establishment as the third largest economy in the world, a status that it still holds to this day. Working hard, often to the detriment of the individual, is just something that has been accepted for a long time. And it's not like Japan isn't aware of this issue. In the past, there's been attempts to limit the amount of overtime a company or employer can put on its workers, and while these are important steps to mitigate this issue, it's still not that simple. Simply put, a detrimental dedication to work is something that has been baked into Japanese society since the 40s. It's not as simple as passing a law that says people don't have to overwork if they don't want to. The simple fact of the matter is that many Japanese workers feel as though it's an obligation and to be expected. And this is no different in the anime and manga industry. However, there is a chance that in the future, this can change. We talked about this in one of our latest videos, link here if you want to watch it, but a lot of people in the comments of that video believe that a lot of the newer generation of manga authors understand the sacrifices that come with being a manga author, and thus would rather create stories with more moderate and digestible links compared to something like One Piece, Bleach, or Naruto. And that makes sense. Although we can't say for certain that the deaths of famed authors like Akira Toriyama and Kentaro Miura were caused directly by overwork, it's still very possible considering that mistreating yourself even earlier in your life can lead to severe health issues later down the line. A fact that I'm sure many of the new generation are now aware of. Even in Japanese pop culture, I'm beginning to see the sentiment that, well, working grueling hours day in and day out, not getting to have a social life or friends, barely getting any sleep at night, yeah, it sucks, and it shouldn't be accepted. It seems, at least to me, that although these problems do persist and probably will for a time, people are more aware of it and are actively fighting against it. And I'm glad, because in a lot of ways, I identify with all of these creators. That's not to say that I'm anywhere even close to their level, because I'm not. I will be the first to tell you that. But I understand that kind of dedication to want to put yourself fully into something creative. I mean, that's why I make these videos, because it's nice working really hard on something and then having people see it and tell you how much they like it. It's one of the things that keeps me going and makes me want to make videos. But I'd be lying if I said early on when I started making these videos that I also wasn't treating myself the best. I was losing sleep, I wasn't eating as frequently as I should have been, and I also wasn't talking to a lot of my friends. And at some point, I realized this and worked towards improving my schedule, and it made me a lot happier. And that's what I want for all of these creators. Of course, I appreciate their hard work, but the simple fact of the matter is that no piece of art is worth another human being's life. So in the future, all I can hope is that this sentiment continues to latch on and become more and more accepted. And that goes for you too, the one watching this video. I get wanting to work hard on something that you really care about, but also make sure to take care of yourself, because I promise that in the long run, it's only going to make the thing you create all the more worthwhile.